I am Mac McKelvey, and we are back for another episode of the Some Disruptors podcast. Heidi, what up?
What up, Mac? What's
What's going on?
shaking?
What's in Scottsdale? Is it still hot?
Still 100, yo. Still 100 and monsoony. Blowing all the cars and all the people and all the things and all the bad hair and all the facelifts around, but it's amazing.
Okay, well.
How about you out there? I've been seeing you getting your hair blown.
Me? It's been a little windy this weekend. Yes, we're in Vermont, and it's beautiful right now. So it's.
I was talking about you behind your new toy. In your new toy. Behind your new toy. On your new toy. In your new toy.
On the
Have
boat.
you named her? Because
No.
boats are she's, you know. She's.
Awesome.
Oh, you should name it. Or Awesome Sauce, maybe, should be the name of your boat.
Well, I mean, that's what we can nickname. Let's welcome.
Hello, Molly. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Heidi, Max. So nice to meet you both. I'm so happy to be here.
I know. For everyone that's watching, I have been fangirling for the last couple of months over Molly, who I didn't know until today. We've exchanged some emails over time because we know the founder of Aescape, but I've been fangirling over her as a marketer, and I'm thrilled that you're here. And when I say I'm fangirling, you're going to be embarrassed in a few minutes because I'm fangirling big, because startup world is our passion. Recognizing and acknowledging great work is one of the things we want to do in the podcast. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, really.
So as we get started, there's something we like to do with everybody, and we want to see if you will be game. So introducing ourselves and introducing yourself. People know who we are. We're boring. We want to have you introduce yourself, but we want to start first with a Real Housewife tagline. I have one. I'll do mine. Heidi has, this will buy you a moment. I'll do mine. I'll fix my hair. Heidi has one. Okay, here's mine. I may have two names, but don't get it twisted. I know exactly who I am.
Girl, it gets more fierce each week when you say it. I tell you what.
I feel like I have to just put an exclamation point on it.
If you think my t-shirt makes a statement, wait till you hear my roar.
Wait, what's the t-shirt say today?
Making magic happen. Sales and marketing. Making magic happen.
All right, Molly.
Okay, those are tough acts to follow. Mine would be, they say the pen is mightier than the sword, and I've got the sharpest blade in the batch.
Yes.
Woo! Wow, that's fabulous. I'm drink to that. I'm going to drink to that.
I'm going to drink to that too. But shout out to Bryn, my sister. I definitely panicked, not going to lie. And words are my bread and butter, ironically. And I've never come up with a Housewives tagline. And I am diehard Beverly Hills.
Okay. I am all of them, but I have to say, I think Beverly Hills and Salt Lake City they're my top. And I like the reboot of New York.
So do I, but I'm an original Bethany Frankel fan. She's Bethany Frankel. And I've been watching the TikTok like chicken salad situation, like the reviews of the chicken salad from that part of the country. It's hilarious. And I like to drink, skinny girl things. Yeah.
Right. And I typically would be drinking wine tonight, but I'm sadly just drinking water tonight. What are you drinking, Molly? Are you drinking cocktail?
I'm drinking water too. I didn't even think to fix myself a nice little drink.
Next time, part 2.
Are you on the East Coast, or are you 5 o'clock anywhere somewhere kind of gal? You're on the East Coast as well.
New York, yeah.
All right, Molly, let's do a 2-minute. Do you mind doing a 2-minute background on yourself to let all of our listeners know not only your Real Housewife tagline, but a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have worked in tech, PR, and marketing for over a decade now. I can't believe I can say that. But I have cut my teeth on everything from fintech, insurtech, wellness tech, climate tech, you name it, any tech vertical there is, I've likely had a client in that space. In those 10 years, I realized my passion, the thing that lights me up and animates me and makes me want to get out of bed and do this job every day is wellness, which is kind of like a tired eye roll catch-all phrase, but it's true. Something that helps, anything that helps someone feel a little bit better or just, I don't know, show up and be their best selves, hokey as that may sound, I'm all in. I was an athlete my whole life. I'm still active. And I know the difference that makes, right? Being able to move better, eat better, feel better, whatever your version of that is, right? So with tech specifically, when I realized like, okay, anything that intersects with any of those things, that's what I want to do. I'm really good at cutting through the inbox noise to get a reporter's attention. And I can help, underdogs in the startup space, right? Which is what you're trying to highlight here and bring to the fore. I can help them get attention when usually it's, the big dogs that are getting the headlines, front page news, whatever it is, right? So I wanted to use my power, if you will, in just having a way with words, getting in front of the right audience and making sure it's people that I really believe in, whose story I'm helping tell. And cut to, February of just this year, I'm now in-house at Aescape, which is a lifestyle robotics company. Our first product is an automated AI-powered massage table. And I could not be happier telling the story of our founder, CEO, and extended team at Aescape.
Well, as I mentioned, I've been fangirling. I'm very, very excited for this conversation. And I think I'm going to kick it off with letting our listeners know what we're talking about here. It's one of the reasons we asked Molly to come on. So you guys launched in March, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So just launched. So you had just started at Aescape and you guys are launching. Okay. So for anyone tracking the coverage like I am, let's just talk about this. Wired, the New York Times, Popular Science, Cheddar, the New York Post, Fortune, Vogue, Forbes, Morning Brew, Fast Company. I mean, it goes on and on and on. So there's an incredible quality and quantity. But then you look at some of the headlines, because this isn't just about where these showed up, but it's like, I tried Escape's robot arm powered massage table and loved being in control. You can now get a massage from a robot at this luxe New York City hotel. Where was the one? A robot gave me the world's most advanced massage. Like innovators, like Escape's massage robot is poised to change the industry. So now we want to know how in the heck you pulled this off. Obviously, amazing product, obviously. But to pull off a launch like that and get the coverage, let's spend the next few minutes talking about that. Where did you start? Like, how did that come together?
Yeah, well, listen, when I was deciding to join Escape, I was looking for the right ingredients, right? I know what it takes to tell a story and a PR story, right? Not just any story. What's going to get a journalist's attention? If I'm not mistaken, the stat is something like PR professionals outnumber journalists 6-1. So you got to think that they're getting upwards of like 200, 300 emails a day. Just pitches. Forget what else they're tending to, right? With admin and whatever else and their boss. So Escape, you're right. Obviously a fantastic product, but they had all the things that journalists are looking for in a pitch. Pedigree, right? They had a phenomenal team, have a phenomenal team. They have some of the brightest minds in connected hardware and fitness with the fancy company names like Peloton, Amazon, Apple, Uber. So any of the shiny companies that journalists want to pay attention to where those former executives and alumna have gone on to, that was there, right? So highlighting that, that's important. How many years were they in R&D? Do they care about safety? Do they really care about the people? How are they going to talk about potentially replacing human jobs, right? That's a big fear with anything AI. And it was important to me to hear how Eric, our founder and CEO, talked about that. He talked about it in a way that I could stomach. And it wasn't just talk, right? I really sensed from him that no, we're not looking to replace massage therapists. Forgive me, this is going to sound a little bit like a pitch for the product, but it's important. It's an important part of the story and how to get this story out there. So he explained, we're not trying to replace a traditional massage, right? There are things that human massage therapists can do that we just cannot do. We're trying to make massage more accessible. The benefits of massage, which are known, right? Like there's scientific credibility behind this. We're working with and alongside licensed massage therapists to build our product. We want to alleviate them. We want their clients and customers to be able to continue with their protocol no matter where in the world they are, so that one day when Escape is theoretically everywhere, they will be able to do that. They won't have to worry about, oh, I'm away from my massage therapist, or I can't find an appointment because a guy isn't available if I prefer a guy, or a woman isn't available if I prefer her. So that satisfied me. And then, of course, it's just understanding what a journalist is going to look for outside of the pedigree, the team, the funding. Oh, actually, that's another element I should talk about. Funding, right? For a tech startup, at least, they want to know that they're backed by credible investors. And it just so happens that we're backed by some of the best of the best. Valor Equity, they were an early investor in Tesla. So it just things that establish credibility when you're so new, pedigree, funding, and then your founder's track record at that. Those are kind of the key ingredients. And then it's the way a PR professional packages that up, right? You want it to be human. And that's another thing. In the age of AI, you really want to sound like a human. People have a sniff test. They know if it's being, written up by Chat GPT. It's devoid of human emotion because it's a robot. It is, right? So you want to talk, you want to write the way you would talk. And that's something I bring to the table with every client I've worked with, and especially with Aescape. I'm talking about a robot, but I'm giving it the human emotion it deserves when pitching journalists. So that's kind of the long-winded way of explaining what I do, and specific to my approach with Aescape. It was really just highlighting all of these things that we just so happen to have, packaging it up in a really pretty pitch, and then carpet bombing the press, tech press, wellness press, lifestyle press, massage therapists, the spa world, anything that I thought, or excuse me, any trade or publication that I thought might have a journalist interested in any of those elements I just rattled off, I went after them. And of course, I would tweak the pitch. But maybe I should pause there because I could be getting too in the weeds with the
You're not,
tactics.
no, you're
But
absolutely
that
not
was,
getting in the reads. That's so I want to come back to the carpet bombing part, but let's go back to the
yes.
planning side. So when you were working on the strategy, you had to pull in the executive team, right? So how did that go when someone like Eric, the founder and CEO, how did you engage with the executive team and get them to buy in to the launch communications plan?
Yeah, well, you touched on it when you mentioned the launch timing. I started February 1st, a nice clean first of the month. And we were supposed to launch our PR announcement. So exiting from stealth after 7 years in R, right? February 21st, which is 3 weeks since I am, starting. I'm onboarding. I'm trying to take in everything to know about the company, also how I'm supposed to show up for work and do my job.
Find the
And
bathrooms and
yeah,
launch the company. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. So had a long to-do list, to say the least. But in quickly jumping into what does our press release look like? Because before I was on, they had a crisis communications firm that they retained, and they're a great little shop. They're called Steelwire. Shout out to Steelwire. But they had put together a press release that, it was good. It had the bones, but I realized very quickly, like, you know what? This is an unprecedented product. There are things we're not highlighting. There are ways we can, just restructure this so that it has the pop and panache that I think a product that's truly groundbreaking, and I hate to use words like revolutionary, disruptive, or groundbreaking. It's
Sometimes it
self-aggrandizing.
fits and it
Sometimes
fits.
it fits, but I would rather someone else describe us as such. There's something about a PR person describing their company as revolutionary that just begs an eye roll. Is it though?
Yeah.
Anywho, press release needed a little bit of work. Beyond that, our product wasn't entirely press ready. And my strategy was, let's get journalists to try the robot, right? Like, it's a massage. They could probably use a midday massage break. Why not have them come and try it and let the product speak for itself? I can write a pretty pitch all day and can make it sound really snazzy, but unless the product does exactly what I'm saying, nobody cares. So
Man, that's the new and improved desk side visit right there. Come and actually have a massage.
exactly.
Wow.
And I say that in my pitch. I'm like, what do you think about a little robot R&R? Super casual. It's not like, come and try the most advanced massage. I don't really I try to talk to journalists as I would to my friends, to my mother, to my grandma, whomever. Um, but so the strategy, to get to your question, Mac, was very much like, okay, when do we feel, this is me talking to the executive team, that our 30-minute massage experience is going to be up to snuff? And by that, I mean very little troubleshooting involved. We won't need to have an engineer come in and potentially, reboot the robot or whatever. This can happen, especially when we're truly emerging from stealth. Okay, so that means we're not in any partner locations. We've not yet really tested this outside of the safety of our HQ. turns out we needed to buy ourselves time, right? Like things were happening with the robot where it's like, okay, we're almost there, but we don't want something to go wrong when a journalist is experiencing this on the table, because guess what? That could and will end up in a story. In fact, that did happen to us with the New York Times, which is good reporting, by the way. It's kind of weird if you're only getting rave reviews, right? Like it almost seems like, oh, did you buy that? Or you want it to be fair and balanced reporting. That's a journalist's job, and they should be talking about that. And they should bring their opinion into it, by the way, when they are literally reviewing a product. And for more like lifestyle publications and just more consumer oriented outlets, we leaned into the like, try this robot pitch versus here's the news, we're coming out of stealth, and here are the
Wait, say
investors.
that again. I actually want you to say that again. I think that might be the most important thing to hammer home. If you can say
Yeah.
that again.
Yeah. We really distinguished between consumer and lifestyle publications and then the more B2B oriented business outlets, right? You want to be cognizant of the audience you're trying to get in front of. If you want to drive bookings and you want consumers to be aware of your product, go after those trades. If it's a mindfulness app, a yoga product, there's well and good. There's the Marie Claires, the Vogues, the more, the Goops of the world, let's say. If you're trying to attract investors and show them the traction, the milestones, whatever else it is to kind of bait their interest, then you go the business route. That's when you need to focus on different elements of your story. So again, this is after a decade of doing this and understanding what resonates with which audience, but that's your job as a comms professional, a PR strategist, whatever it is. Know what part of the story to extrapolate and then pitch. You need to
I
know
love that, because ROI for PR, I'm sure you can talk about all day long. It's that one piece every CEO looks at as, and then social media is free PR, right? Because there's no understanding. And so recognizing and pointing that out is really, you're going to drive that ROI by understanding who that audience is and what your goals are related to that. I love that so much. So
recognize
much.
your audience and then knowing how to insert yourself into timely, topical conversations. And you have to get creative with it, right? I mean, I'm trying to think of a good example, but like in the PR world, you call it newsjacking, right? So if something is happening that maybe your CEO or an executive on your team can speak to as a quote expert, you want to pitch them. You want to react to that. You want to make it relevant. So maybe something's happening in the world of robotics, right? Specific to, I don't know, maybe recovery, right? Like we'll use Escape as the example here. Robotics in recovery and wellness or what have you. I should be aware of that trending in the media cycle and then be pitching my company because there's something timely there, right? And we constantly want to be top of mind, top of reporter inboxes. And having a sense of that is ultimately my job at the end of the day. It helps that I'm a news hound, right? Like I want to be aware of what's happening. And I love pop culture. I love staying up to speed on what's being written about and memes and all the things in between. And then that parlays not just into your PR storytelling, but then your content strategy and how your teammate talks about, teammates plural, talk about the product. So your external comms informs internal and vice versa. But Matt, keep me on track here. I'm not sure if I quite answered your questions,
No, you
but it
did.
was
You
really
did.
okay. Cool.
You just said something interesting too. I want to go back to this. So when people hear PR, they typically think media relations, right? They're thinking about the media relations side of PR. You just talked about a few others, right? So there is the internal, there's making sure everyone internally is saying the same thing at the same time in the same way. All your channels reflect it. What about in your world at Escape? Do you also own customer communications or like partner, investor? Does that all fall under you, or where does that live at Escape?
It's a little bit, well, the short answer is other teams are responsible for like customer relations, and we do have a fantastic partnerships team. But we're all, first of all, we're in that scrappy startup phase, right? I think we're only first a little over 200 full-time employees. So we're running a tight ship, and there's a lot of communication. So we all have visibility into how other teams talk about the product. Like partnerships, they're essentially doing the same thing as me, right?
Yeah.
They're pitching this product. They understand So if it's investors, again, what parts of the story do they need to tell? What what do they need to talk about if it's, a potential hotel that we're trying to partner with? There are different things that everyone needs to highlight, but all that's to say, we do have different teams dedicated to different storytelling swim lanes, if you will. But because we all work so closely, we're able to take different pieces of that and weave together our own version, still aligned with our brand messaging strategy.
That's really interesting because I think a lot of startups that I talk to, especially those that are just at launch phase, I don't think they understand how important that one center of truth is, right? That one core messaging framework, that core messaging hub, and that everything spins off of it. Is that something in your world? Does comms own that, or does marketing own that? How do you build that at Escape?
Well, I can say when I came in, I definitely wanted to do a messaging workshop where it was like, okay, this is how we're going to talk about exiting from stealth. And this should be reflected in our website language and partnership language or wherever else it made sense to have the framework I helped establish. But it's definitely top down from marketing. And I am part of a broader marketing team. So I think there are different messaging pillars for different teams. The source of truth, I guess, that is a marketing function writ large across the team. We're all making sure we feel good about whatever messaging. But again, I feel like I started at Escape only weeks ago, and it's been, I think I'm going on 8 months, and it's still so fresh in my mind. Like, okay, here's how we're going to talk about this. Here is the messaging framework. But again, it's very much cross-functional and collaborative at that.
So you have a
I
team that
am.
oh, sorry, Heidi, you go
I
ahead.
was going to say, I applaud the founders and your exec team for bringing in someone to stand up a PR function coming out of stealth, because I have seen that misfire across the board. PR is an afterthought because I think people look at, again, PR as expensive and a cost center because they don't have leadership that's looking at it through the lens that you're looking at it. Like, are we looking to raise money? Are we looking to drive credibility in a brand new space? And I'm out in the land of the sun where we have Waymos rolling around. And I think of Waymo as a similar category in that it's limited traction in limited markets because they're being pretty conservative. But I haven't seen a pretty big press ticket scenario for Waymo that I think they need for some of us older folk. Because I can tell you, the first time I ever saw one of those things and you're driving on the freeway where people are going 85, and you look over and here's a car with nobody operating it. Similar, you're on a table about to get a massage. Arguably, you're going to know it's going to be a robotics massage, but you have a preconceived notion of, I've had 100 massages before. Someone's going to come in there and ask you, what are your pain points? And you're going to have a conversation. Would you like to have this good smelly stuff? Right. So I think you're creating a market as you launch a market, which is also a challenge, I would think, from a PR perspective, because you're gonna be taking bullets at the same time, all the things that could possibly be wrong. And so I didn't mean to go tangentially, but as I'm speaking out loud, I'd love to dig in at some point into that, is taking those, you're behind the plate, taking those first pitches of something that people just don't, you're creating a market of something that doesn't exist. And you're going to have people coming out throwing shade because they just don't understand how different it's going to be for the market and why it's going to be okay to have that conversation.
Heidi, you said so many things that I want to dig deep into. And the first thing I think
Take
you
them one
said,
at a time.
something you said though, was how you've seen executives either misfire or not understand the value of PR. And that has been something I've encountered my entire career, because executives, a lot of executives, I won't make a blanket statement like that, but they want to measure, right? They want ROI, they want to see attribution. We all want to see that. PR is notoriously difficult because we have estimated audience reach, right? But that doesn't guarantee that every New York Times subscriber is reading your article. It doesn't guarantee that every reader, follower, etc., is actually scrolling past this and even so much, glancing at the headline. But to your point, the value of articulating a new product, creating a new category, and then being prepared to both defend it and advance it is truly invaluable. And I have to give credit where credit's due. I mean, Eric and the extended team got ahead of this prior to hiring me. And again, I'm in-house. They hired a small shop for crisis comms. They were even thinking that way. They were thinking, look, like we are a completely new product. Something is going to go wrong. We need to be prepared. And he has that in the hopper. And
Wow.
my job coming in was to generate buzz, anticipation, ultimately signups, which again, we can't directly map back to PR, but do we know that there's been a groundswell of interest? Can we see there's an uptick in bookings and website traffic after a news story hits? Absolutely. But my job is to come in and create that groundswell of interest and have people coming back for more. And then beyond that, and this is arguably the hardest part of PR, is maintaining that steady
I was going
drumbeat.
to say, there's
Mm.
the art of launch, and then there's the post launch, which is how do you keep the momentum and actually build on it, which I want to talk about because I think, you had a stellar launch and it's continuing. So before we get to that though, within your launch, you had lots of great press coverage from major outlets. And you're right, lifestyle. I mean, Vogue was one of my favorite articles. But you also had celebrities that were talking about this as well. Now, was this a conscious effort on the influencer front, or was some of this organic? How did that happen?
It was totally organic. And again, I have to shout out my brilliant head of content, Brendan Cox, who I will share this podcast with. I can't wait. He grew our following from I forget what we had. I mean, I'm talking like low thousands when I first joined Escape. He gets on board, and I think he started end of April, okay? It's now what, September? We're past 100K. And we weren't even at 5,000 followers, if I'm not mistaken. So you do that math. Math is not my wheelhouse. But all that's to say, incredibly talented.
Phenomenal.
And
It went up. I know that
it
much.
went up, right?
Yep.
Okay, that's the that's the TLDR. And yeah, so Will Smith posted about us. We also happen to have, celebrity investors. So Kevin Love, NBA All-Star, Miami Heat player. So there was this, very organic chatter in the celebrity world. And then once Brendan was, out of the gates and pitching our influencers and whatnot, it just generated this flywheel effect. And what you want to do is drive FOMO, right? You want people to want to do what their favorite creators are doing and their, celebrity heroes, whatever. So these videos, these influencer videos, which by the way, completely unpaid. We invite them in, get a massage on us. If you feel like sharing your experience, great. And we've seen success with that. But yes,
Okay,
it is this
when am I going
flywheel
to be in New
effect.
York? Pencil me in for New York. I'll be getting a plane ticket and coming down to see you.
Like, I just have all the questions about when I can try this and where you do it and how you, yeah,
You both
like,
have to. You must. Oh my gosh, Heidi, if you're in California anytime soon, we will be launching on the
are
West.
you in LA? Is that where it is?
It's upcoming. It's coming
That
soon.
is just a hop, skip, and a snib from here. So I'm like, Mac, maybe you need to come out to LA and we do like a live podcast. We go have one and we have a conversation about these.
Let's do
You
it.
should. And Mac, I mean, in all sincerity, if you are in the New York area, you have to get on the table because it's really true. Once you're on the table, and that's part of the interview process. It's just another thing I want to point out here. Before accepting this job, and I had other offers, I got on the table. I have to drink the Kool-Aid. That might just be a personal thing, but I really have to believe in my team, in my product. And something that motivates me is people over product. My leadership team, I mean, Mac, you were saying earlier, Eric, you go back, but really he's someone I trust. He is someone whose vision I could easily get behind. But then getting on that table allowed me to then confidently pitch reporters so that I felt good inviting them in and trusting that they'd have the experience that sells itself.
And you said that actually earlier, and I want to go back to this because you said when you first started, they were on the train, right? The train was on the tracks for launch for a specific date. And you put yourself on the line a bit, right? I don't want to speak for you, but you did. And you did what amazing professionals do. And you said, wait a minute, like we could go now. This is what it could look like if we go now. If we wait X amount of time, it could look like this. That is, I mean, look, we know in the startup world, time is money. A lot of, I wouldn't call them artificial deadlines, but there are deadlines put out there to drive behavior, right? And to put a flag in the ground. How does that conversation go down? Like, how were you able to have that conversation with everyone?
You know, I think there was a lot of adrenaline and excitement, and I felt like the new girl and I had something to prove. But I also, after, again, like, I've been doing this for a long time. I know what works. And I finally got to this. I mean, I trust myself. I trust myself. I've learned that after all these years, I know what I'm doing. And I have news for you. I didn't always feel that way. I didn't always operate that way, I should say. In fact, coming to Escape, I mentioned I had other offers and some not exactly in my industry, but I decided on Escape, not just because of all the things I've said about Eric and the leadership team and the product, but I knew I needed self-esteem rehab. And as soon as I came in and so clearly saw, okay, here's what we got to do. Here are the scenarios. This is the scenario we want. So let's make this happen. I trusted myself. I called this meeting. I'll never forget it because I was like zooming in. I was zooming into this meeting. I was working from home that day, and I see Eric and the rest of the team, the senior leadership team, sitting in an office, and I'm like, this is what we have to do. And it would buy me a little bit of time because I wouldn't have even had 3 weeks to pitch, and I needed at least 4 weeks. We want to get them in, on the table before the embargo, all the things. And when they heard me, understood what I was proposing, and then agreed, this is perhaps a sidebar, but it was just like the confirmation and validation that I needed, that I made the right decision in my career because they trust me. And you want that.
Amazing.
You want to feel that as a leader, right? And as someone who was new to joining the company, it was just one of those like, oh my God, all the boxes are being checked right now. And that's a sign of another good leader when they hire the right people to do their job and let them do their thing.
Yes.
And the
Mhm.
results paid off.
Well,
I
and again, I
have a
think
question about, sorry, Mac.
that's okay. I was just
You
gonna say the
talked about
results.
how you were so prescriptive in doing your background and research to jump in because you were, I'm not even self-esteem reboot. No, you said something really amazing there.
Self-esteem rehab. I really needed some self-esteem rehab.
So
Yeah.
what did you, because I don't know about you, Mac, but I think that so many of our listeners probably struggle with that question you get in an interview process about what questions do you have for me that the company asks. I want to know what questions you asked them. What were those things that were going to help you get past the starting line to know this is, I want to hang my hat here. These are the folks I want to work with. What were those things that I think people right now, the market's so weird. People are really trying to figure out how to peek under the hood, if you will, more so than tell me about the comp and the number of days off I have a year. And are there snacks that I can eat and the things I can drink? They want to know, the work-life balance question. I've been fed I've been fed a bunch of BS on that. I'm sure Mac has in her past. They tell you all the things, but then it's different. So what did you ask when you were interviewing? What were those nuggets you wanted to know?
I think what's even more important than asking certain questions, or maybe before you ask questions and can get clear on what those questions are, because I think they'll vary from person to person, is getting very clear on what your non-negotiables are. And what are the things that animate you? And what are the things that motivate you? And I had to do a lot of work. This wasn't just like a one day, I was like, new job, new me, who this, it was no, I had to get clear, like, what has burned me out? What I mean, to speak in woo-woo terms, and anyone who knows me knows I'm big into woo-woo. I really had to get in touch with my higher self and like pay attention to the things that made me feel like me and made me feel okay about doing my job. I mean, anyone who's worked on the agency side, be it in PR or another creative adjacent role, I'm sure has had to get behind certain clients that they feel, maybe a little ick about pitching or promoting or advertising, whatever, working for someone that they just were no longer in lockstep with. And Once I understood, I said this before, but it's worth saying again, that for me, it's people over product. Am I exceptionally lucky that this product I genuinely believe in and love pitching? Yes. But I knew that I wanted to be with people who were smarter than me, as ambitious, if not more ambitious, could teach me something and challenge me. And once I saw those qualities at Escape, there was honestly very little for me to ask because I had done my homework. I looked for that. I looked for the people who had the track record, the accolades, which, I don't even know how much I buy that. But, things that I did leading up to the interview, I sought out I sought out people who worked there. I asked for 15 or 20 minutes of their time. I got a vibe check. I made sure, again, energetically speaking, there was a there, and I felt a connection. And little touch points like that, which were so human, and I needed to feel that human quality for a robotics company. I wanted to make sure that the humans behind the robot were people that I could work with and alongside day in and day out and feel good about, again, pitching this product. I felt all those things. And I didn't have many questions toward the end of the interview process, to be totally honest, because I did all the work up front.
Yeah.
But it's truly the self work. I can't stress that enough. Because for some people, it's like, I want all the remote time, or I want all the time off, the unlimited time off, travel, whatever that is. Those aren't my boxes. For me, it was like, I want to be able to work 2 to 3 days from home, be in New York City, the other, 2 or 3 days, whatever that is. But I can't stress that enough. Just getting clear on what you as an individual need, and then it'll become abundantly clear as you're researching a company if it's there or not.
Thank you. Very valuable. I feel like if personally for me, if the cultural piece is in line, the other tangible things you have it'll just happen naturally, organically, without having to come in with your list of demands. So I appreciate that very much. I've had people suggest that, offer to go out if they have a family, offer to go out and watch how they are at like their kid's soccer game on a Saturday. Like that's really going to, particularly if you're doing a role like you are, where you're going to inevitably be utilizing the execs as mouthpieces and coaching them on how to have conversations with the writing media. You have people around you. You said you've been a lifetime competitor. You get people around sports, you see the real version of them.
Yes.
The real version. And I thought that was the greatest suggestion that somebody made to me. And you know how if you have somebody not willing to let you into that piece of their world when you're taking a role that you need to be personal at that level, that's a bit of a red flag.
And you bring up another thing, Heidi, you're just reminding me, but I was very specific in my little list of here's what I want in my next role. And I wanted to be around former athletes. As a former athlete, there's just, you fall into that, you click, whatever it is. And sure enough, Escape attracted that in its team. And it feels so good to be a part of that again. I really only mention that because there is a power to writing down what you want, right? Some people call it manifesting, getting clear, whatever your version of that is, do it. And you will be so surprised what comes through. I mean, I still pinch myself that so many of my non-negotiables, if you will, came through down to like the floor. Like I want a New York City building that is light drenched. Like light is very important to me. As you can see by this podcast, I'm sitting in front of a window.
Very well lit. Very well lit.
Yes, this is very intentional, ladies. But all that's to say, I mean, I wrote that down, and a part of me didn't even entirely believe that was possible in New York City, a company at this size with, a good amount of fun, like all the things. But I was very, very intentional and clear on what I wanted.
I think we have to take a quick pause to thank our sponsor, which is Startup Marketer, by the way. So let's take a moment and we'll be right back.
We love startups, but marketing for them can be hard. Whether you're a founder, a seasoned marketer, or a recent marketing grad, Startup Marketer is here to help. Startup Marketer, or SOM for short, is a first-of-its-kind marketing ecosystem designed by startup marketers with experience working with over 100 startups. We understand the unique challenges you face because we've been there, and we're sharing our cheat codes for success. With bespoke marketing templates, on-demand courses, interactive sessions with experts, and a vibrant community of like-minded professionals, Some combines accelerator muscle with community wisdom. You can even book an expert to troubleshoot or ideate in real time with senior strategists and senior doers. In a world where marketing is a critical element for startup success, Some equips you with everything you need to drive growth and stay ahead. So join Some today and elevate your marketing game. Visit thestartupmarketer.com.
The results of launch, how were they received by the executive team and the company overall?
I mean, fabulously. It was just, I don't think they were fully prepared for the windfall of press that came through. And granted, that was a lot of my setting. I really tried to, what's that expression? Under promise, over deliver. And here's the truth, right? When it comes to PR, you can't guarantee coverage. I think I wish I had these figures up in front of me, but I think I had something like 18 reporters had demoed the Aescape massage prior to the embargo date. So that's like, it was only like a week and change, I want to say, that we jam-packed reporter demos. Yeah, back to back to back. I mean, it was such a whirlwind, but I really set low expectations because historically speaking, some people are like, all right, cool, I tried it. I'm not going to write about it. Right. But because this really was so first of its kind, which is another phrase that you want to be careful about using. But if you do have a first, if you do have a precedence, that's what makes it news. Call that out in your pitch, people. The first blank, call it out. It's new, news, newsworthy. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, the team didn't expect the amount of coverage that we had because I, again, very deliberately said, okay, like we had 18 reporters to brief, but that does not guarantee 18 pieces of coverage. Sure enough, though, hit after hit after hit. Granted, I think like, 2 reporters didn't write, or one didn't write from that initial tranche of reporter demos around launch, but one who was just delayed was in the lifestyle sector, and they don't really care about embargoes. For anybody who might,
Theirs isn't, it isn't a news deadline, right? So for them, it fits into, they're working on a 2 months of self-discovery. They're going to move it. So do you have
Holiday gifts for the guys that have everything.
you're right, exactly,
Right, exactly.
They think through
But I
their
mean-
editorial, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, and you have to do a lot of education internally, right? So you have to turn around and explain this to folks because they are probably expecting some of this. So is that a lot of your job, Escape? Or do people just roll with it and they trust you and how it's been rolling out?
It's a little bit of both. There was definitely a lot of education, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier, Heidi, with the whole, a lot of people don't understand the value of PR and they don't understand how it works, right? But yes, there was definitely an educational component, especially when it comes to that delineation we were talking about earlier with there's tech and business press who are more inclined to write at or around an embargo date. And for those listening who may not know, an embargo is simply the date that journalists and the like agree to write about a story. So if they break an embargo, that means they're writing prematurely. So if I say, okay, we have news coming out September 12th, they can't write before the 12th, right? It gives everyone an opportunity to break the news at the same time and have it be news, clicks, etc. So yeah, explaining that tech and business reporters, they're likely to write on an embargo date. Lifestyle outlets like, Vogue, Marie Claire, Harper's Bazaar, they're going to write when they want to write, if they want to write. There's always that if component. And I will always caveat that when I'm sharing my pitch updates. Just because we've had this amount of reporters on the table does not mean we are going to have the same amount in article coverage. So that's just important to remember for anyone who's trying to break into PR too.
Your coverage metrics kick.
Thank you.
I mean, I've been doing this a long freaking time. Impressive. Seriously, but you were talking about attribution earlier and recognizing, particularly in a little bit rockier of a market, money's hard to go and raise, budgets are frozen or being cut. In the KPI game, the game of data and analytics, is your advice you could give to young individuals that are interested in comms or PR or growing up professionally? how to play the attribution game from a PR perspective. Love to get your insights there.
PR your PR. Even if you don't have the concrete, hard and fast numbers of this many people read this story, you can talk about it in a different way. Again, this is your job as a storyteller, and you have to storytell your own wins. So for instance, when I'm reporting back to my team that we've secured coverage in Bloomberg, it's not just we've secured coverage in Bloomberg. We got in front of a top tier business outlet that reaches millions of readers. And of course, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but when you report, you could find that out, right? Like, so let's say for argument's sake here, like 3 million readers, right? 3 million readers that with an audience made up of investors, business decision makers, the audience you want to get in front of, that's a win. That is a metric in and of itself, right? Because you're reaching the KPI of getting in front of the right readership. And then, of course, you pull choice quotes, right? So if a journalist says something particularly flattering or on point with the messaging that you've been trying to get out there, that's another win, because that's your PR strategy resonating, which shows your leadership this is working. Your language is working. Your narrative is working. Not only is it getting coverage, but I'm seeing it over and over and over again in articles. My press releases, where I generally am, preparing quotes, be they attributed to Eric or other CEOs that are involved on the partner that we might be, talking about. I see those quotes in so many articles. That's your KPI, baby. Hype that up. So it's hard with numbers with PR, no doubt, but you can get creative, and that's half the fun. Like we got in front of this, with Vogue, we got in front of, luxury readers who are interested in hospitality and spas and whatever it is. I'm kind of doing a poor job of demonstrating what I'm trying to say here, but there are ways of PRing your PR.
You just said it. You have to merchandise it, right? Like you do have to sell it back internally. And I think Heidi's question on selling the value, that's what you're doing. You're selling the value because those articles give you the legitimacy, right? It's a third party saying it, right? Like you're putting out the news, but you have a third party that's experiencing this and they are writing about it, which means whatever you gave them was compelling enough for them to go take a step, which in your case was to take a massage, and then to write about it. And your success rate on conversion was huge on that, right? Imagine if you had said it 20 people and you got 3 stories out of it. So to Heidi's point, got to merchandise the hell out of that one. Maybe there were 3 great stories, but in your case, you're able to convert a lot of those experiences into stories. It's huge.
%. And, Heidi and Mac, you've been in this game for a long time, and I'm sure you know how this works, but that third party validation is so key. And once you have those quotes, right? I'm not calling it revolutionary. I'm not calling it groundbreaking or cutting edge or any of that
Bloomberg
jargon
is.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Like, unless you are an Uber, by the way, and you are truly disrupting a stagnant industry, which they did with transportation back in 2000, what was it, like 11? I don't even remember. But all that's to say, like, stay away from those words. Let someone else describe you as such. But then you take those quotes, you take the disruptives, the groundbreakings, the this, the that, whatever it is, and you put a little bit of money behind that on LinkedIn, or you turn that into like some, like an advertisement in and of its own right, with whatever the publication's logo is, so that people scrolling will see it's not Aescape saying it. Here's what everybody else is saying. So again, going back to that flywheel concept, it is not only generating news articles, but it's more content and assets for your marketing team.
That's right.
And mentions, right? UGC. User-generated content mentions and building community is one of those things that we've been talking about it for a long time, but today you have vehicles like social, you have all these vehicles that have been stood up for your customers to become a new acquisition channel for you without them even knowing they're doing it. They're just talking about how amazing it was to be on the table and how it felt like such a different experience. So you're seeding the content without pushing the content out in front of them with an ad that you see over and over and over in a feed, which I think is really, really very cool. And, if you haven't seen it, I'm a huge Big Bang Theory fan. My husband and I have watched Big Bang Theory over and over and over again. I just keep thinking about the episode where Howard has the robot arm. If you're not familiar, Molly and Mac, you guys have got to go and Google this.
I will.
And he's developed this robot arm, and it is absolutely hilarious. And you're welcome. You're welcome.
I was going to say, Molly, it sounds like you have a phone call to make and see what Howard's doing in LA.
I got it would be amazing. I mean, it would be amazing. I could
the robot arm and do like a side by side.
Oh my gosh, you're so hoping, ladies. I mean, I love these ideas. And again, you just said something, Heidi, that I wanted to touch on, just, with UGC and your customers being the one to tout your product at the end of the day. I just want to highlight that, yes, I am very proud of the PR work that I've accomplished, but it is so collaborative and one thing feeding the other across the marketing team. I've had inbounds, one inbound in particular, I'm forgetting the name of the outlet. It's a robotics, it's very niche, but they said straight up, they were like, whoever's doing your paid ads, brilliant. Paid ads is what got on their radar, right? And then we've had a couple inbounds, more than a couple, but I think 2 for sure have come through, as in they actually covered our because they saw us on social media. They saw Will Smith posted about it, right? So again, going back to this flywheel concept, when you have a great marketing team, which we just so happen to have at Aescape, it's then just knowing like how to execute and who to pass the ball to stick with the sports metaphor and my loving being on a team. I mean, like Brendan, my head of social, who's like, hey, so-and-so is interacting with their post. It might be worth pinging them. And, we got an inbound from NBC, which is true. We got an inbound from NBC New York. They did a segment. Next thing you know, we're in the back of, we're playing in the back of taxi cabs in New York City.
The video. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really incredible. I mean, but it's having a stellar team at the end of the day. You can only do so much as one person, so.
But you're a testament to a few things. Let's just see if we can sum up some of this. First, you have a great product. You have a great product. You have an incredible executive team, leader with vision, and a team that is all on the same page, it sounds like. They hire really well, right? I mean, you're a testament to it, but even, the people you were talking about before from the other pedigreed brand, you hire really well and you lean on those experts like yourself. When you push back on a date, it's not an arbitrary thing. If you do this, I can do this, right? You're giving them a plan of action. Then you're consistently reporting up and sharing and educating on the progress. And then you're already thinking post-launch. So now you're on to post-launch world, which is now keeping and sustaining and building on that momentum. While we wind down this podcast, tell us about what's next for you, for Aescape, for you, and what can we have to look forward to? Because again, fangirls here, big time.
A new one here. Absolutely. 100%.
I really
I've been
can't
a
wait
silent
to
stalker for a while, but now it's out. So Molly, sorry, you now know.
I love it. I really can't wait to host you, be it in our West Coast location or New York City.
And I'll bring you some awesome gear. That's her.
I love it. Please do.
Her name is Awesome. She stands for the Operational and Strategic Startup Marketer, our little logo. And she's very zen. She has 8 legs because it's all about balancing 800 things at any
all the
time.
all the woo-woo that you need.
I should show you. I have an octopus. It's like it's sinking a ship, but whatever. That's my shower curtain. It's just like cracking. Anyway, to answer your question, what's next for Aescape? I mean, I'm in the very fortunate position, and I sincerely mean this, because while it can be overwhelming on the one hand, it's only a good problem to have. We are partnering with global industry leaders across hospitality, corporate offices, professional sports teams, collegiate sports teams. And that means you're going to see a whole lot more of Aescape in the headlines, hopefully, but announcing these fabulous partnerships that, again, like, hat tip to the partnerships team. They really started from the top, right? You don't want to start with like, it's not a bottoms up thing. This is, you want to start with the cream of the crop and own that share of the market before then distributing downward. All that's to say is I cannot wait to share who these teams are, these partners, and that's in the not too distant future.
So you're saying stay tuned, more to come, follow Aescape, yes. Follow Molly O'Connor. Molly, where can people get in touch with you or find you, or hopefully not stalk you like I do, but
no, please do.
In a professional way.
LinkedIn. Find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best place, especially when it comes to sharing, comms wins. And I want to get better about sharing strategy and just little tips and tricks I've learned along the way. But I would love to hear from you. Just don't be surprised. I have long brown hair like Mac and Heidi in my picture. So it is me, but I would love to connect. So find me there.
I love it. I can't thank you enough. Heidi, do you have anything else in closing? I mean, I would love to.
I've enjoyed this immensely. And I feel like there are many marketeers that are going to learn much from you. And I look forward to trying the product on for size, quite honestly. And yeah, and talking about it very specifically.
I would love that. We're going to make it happen.
We're going to make it happen in LA, New York, or both.
Yes, totally. And we actually we have an office in San Francisco. So if either of you wanted to do that sooner than the LA opening, you are more than welcome.
Count on it. Molly,
Appreciate it so much, Molly.
Good luck with Aescape and everything in the future. Stay in touch with us, and congrats again on just a killer launch.
Thank you so much, ladies. I look forward to staying in touch.
Absolutely.
Yeah.